What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be another video about our 2020 Subaru Outback. Previously I did a 1,000-mile review and I did the top things that we actually love about it. Now I'm going to get into some of the negatives and some of the things we dislike about it. This is by no way a hate on the Outback video. These are just things that we found over the first couple months of ownership that we tend to not like about it, and I wish they had a little bit of improvements. I don't think very many of these are deal breakers. A few of them are if you're looking at it, but I thought this may help people out if they're looking at the Outback and they think it may be a vehicle they want. This may give them an idea of some things that we dislike about it as a family and just a general using it as a daily driver vehicle. I have a list here of about 6. Again, none of these are deal breakers, and these are just my own personal opinions along with my wife's. We both drive the vehicle off and on. We also have a Subaru Ascent, so that is something to take into account, which is a similar vehicle, just 3 rows. So that getting said, let's jump in. I'll get you some footage of the vehicle also as I go along. But the first thing that we dislike about it applies to many Subaru products, and that is the auto start stop. I'm pretty sure that the boxer engines are not actually designed to be started and stopped. This is a feature that's on the Outback, the Legacy, the Forester. It is not on the Ascent, which is kind of weird. But it is basically when you come to a stop, the engine shuts off. And then when you let go of the brake and you go more towards the gas, it will turn back on. It's a very clunky, unorganized, not a very good system. It's very inconsistent. Sometimes it won't even shut off when you come to a stop. Sometimes it will. Sometimes it like vibrates the whole car when it starts back up. And the big thing that I dislike about it is trying to turn it off, because you have to go into the infotainment system and actually turn it off every single time you start the car. So there's no way to disable this from the factory, or like disable it permanently. It's always on, always going, which is a real annoyance when you're trying to just get to work quickly and start the car and move. You gotta wait for the infotainment to boot up, and then you have to turn it off every time if it's not something you like. At times I've left it on and it doesn't feel like a safe system. It really doesn't. It's really inconsistent. Sometimes it takes a while to start back up and get going if you're like turning at a light or you need to turn quickly. And I honestly don't think it's very good for the motor. It's a turbocharged 4-cylinder, which in my opinion, I'm not an engineer or anything, but I don't really think they're made to be stopped and started. I know it's a fuel efficiency thing. It's supposed to save some fuel, but if you're just driving back and forth to work and you're not in like stop and go traffic all day, it really doesn't make sense. So that's the big thing. Make sure you're okay with that, and make sure you're okay with turning it off every time. So that's something that you need to consider there. The other thing we really dislike about it is mainly applied to our driving style, and that is the miles per gallon that we get when we're driving into the city. So we're not in a city, we're in a more rural area, but we do drive between 35 and 55 miles per hour to work, and it's about a 6-mile commute. And so far we're getting about 21, 22 miles per gallon, which is well below the estimated 20, I believe it's 23 to 30, 26 combined. We're not getting anywhere near that driving back and forth to work. On the interstate, it gets great gas mileage, but just a 6-mile commute back and forth, currently I'm getting like 22, around 22 with the tank that I have in there now. This may improve as the miles get up on the vehicle, but our Forester was actually the same way. It got way below the estimated miles per gallon just driving it back and forth to work and just short commutes. I really think these engines do better when they're a little warmer and they travel a little bit longer distance. So that's something that kind of threw us off there, was that just not very good gas mileage. And our Ascent actually is the same way, but it gets like 18 miles per gallon when you're just driving back and forth to work, which is way, way below the estimated miles per gallon for the low end. The third thing that we dislike about this Outback also applies to the Legacy, and that the infotainment system is a little buggy. It's a great, big, vibrant 11.6 inches. It kind of runs up and down instead of side to side, so it's a huge tablet, but it does have a few bugs with it. It usually takes about a minute before it starts up and becomes adequately active for you to be able to actually play around with it. So turning the auto start stop off is difficult when you first start the car up, just because it takes a little while for this to boot, which I think is crazy considering how fast touchscreens are on cell phones. It's just nonsense that it takes that long, and supposedly this actually has 2 CPUs in it, one to handle just your general stuff, and then one just to handle the infotainment system. I don't know what CPU they're using, but it's got to be from 15 years ago, because this thing takes forever to boot up. At times it will completely shut off and have to reboot itself while you're driving, so the complete screen will just turn off, reboot, and then turn back on. So it's a hit or miss bag. From my opinion, it's just a very slow system when it starts out, and the touch interface and touch interactions you have with it just aren't great compared to even cell phones from 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's still not a best or good system. And the Forester and the Outback, or the Forester and the Ascent, the infotainment in that, I think is excellent. It's very fast, responsive. It's 8 inches. It's laid out correctly. This is just not. It's not a well implemented system. I know what they were trying to do. They probably saw a Tesla and they're like, oh, let's get a big tablet in there, but overall it just doesn't work, and it's not something that I personally like. I would love to have the infotainment system that's in the Ascent in there. I believe it's in the Crosstrek too. Just throw that 8 inch in there and put HVAC controls, which is actually the next thing that we dislike about this, is that the majority of the HVAC controls for your air, your heat, your fan speed, and all of that is actually all touchscreen. Same thing with your heated seats. No more physical buttons to turn on your heated seats. You have to do that through the infotainment system. And in order to, let's say you want to change the direction of your heat, so you want it to do defrost and then down at your feet, well, you actually have to go through the infotainment system to do that, and it's very dangerous when you're driving. I miss having physical knobs to do that. Same thing with the heated seats. You have to go in, press button. It's at least a 2-button, 3-button step if you want to adjust the temperature on it. They really should have just put the standard physical buttons for that. And the big thing is when you're actually wanting to turn the fan speed up or down, it is a teeny tiny little bar at the bottom that you actually have to go and press, and it's not a very well implemented system. The older Outbacks, 2019 and older, are miles better than this. So that and the auto start are probably our big things, and I would make sure you're okay with that. Go to the dealership, play around with it, make sure it's something that you're okay with, because honestly it annoys me every single day I have to get in the car and drive it. Once you get things set up, and if you're not using the air or the heat and you get it set up, it's fine, but if you have to adjust things frequently, it's probably going to drive you nuts. So that's going to be the other big thing. Those are the 3 big things that I would make sure you're okay with. The auto start stop, the relatively poor infotainment system with a bunch of bugs in it, and how the HVAC and the air and heat controls are laid out. You can adjust the temperature easily. They have physical knobs for that, but that's it. If you want to adjust anything else, you have to use the touchscreen, which if it shuts off on you randomly while you're driving, which it has at least 3 times on me, I believe 4. It's usually when you first start it, but you're not going to be able to adjust any of your heating or cooling if it does that. It does boot back up, but it can take up to a minute before it becomes responsive enough to actually go in and change it. So those are the 3 big things. I would make sure you're okay with those. The other 2 that I have are more nitpicks about my driving style and what I dislike about it. And the 5th one is going to be the actual tires. Actually, the Yokohama Avid GT tires are great. I'm not referring to that. I'm more referring to the 225, 40, 18 tire dimensions, which is a very narrow tire, and it has a huge, thick beef sidewall, which is great for if you want a softer, it'll absorb a lot of bumps, you don't feel a lot of the potholes or anything along that line. If you're taking it off-roading or any type of trails, it's going to do excellent and feel very nice just because of those big, beefy sidewalls. But when it comes to actually driving it around town in the rain or just driving it on back roads, the handling is awful in this thing. I really think that it's one of the worst handling vehicles that I've had of a Subaru. I've had a WRX, I've had a Forester, even our Honda CR-V was all-wheel drive, but not quite as sophisticated as Subarus. It was just a way better handling vehicle. And I think, honestly, it's the tire size and how the suspension set up. which is great if you're just cruising around town at a slow pace, or if you're more interested in a very, very soft, absorbs all the bumps. It'll probably do good on the trails. That's probably why they did that. But it's just, I really wish it had like 245, 50 tires on it, maybe even 19s or 20s. 18s are pretty small tire nowadays. Our Scent has 20 inches on it, and I believe it's 245, 50 is what's on there. I wish I could take those tires and throw them on the Outback. I think it would handle much better. Yes, the ride quality wouldn't be as soft and it wouldn't absorb as many bumps, but if you're driving this on back roads, it's not good at handling. Our 2018 Forester was miles above just general handling, and it doesn't do the best in the rain. It does good. It's a safe vehicle, but compared to our Outback, CRV, and Ascent, it's just not up there, and I honestly, truly think it's just because of the tire width and how narrow they are. So that's something, that's not a deal breaker. That's just something that annoys me, and I'm not sure how this will do in the snow. It probably will do great. But I was really spoiled with our 2018 Forester because it was the best vehicle I've ever had in the snow. And I've had a Rubicon, I've had Jeeps before, I had a Grand Cherokee, and this was way better than that. It's a very good system. So that's something, take a look at it, drive it around when you do your test drive and make sure you're okay with that. I would drive it on some back roads and drive it how if you like to drive a little more, not necessarily aggressive in an unsafe way, but if you like to drive a little bit more, sporty, this is not going to be it, not even close. So keep that in mind. And for a car that has 260 horsepower, I really think you need a little bit better tire on it. And the Yokohama tires are not the fault, because those Avid GTs, from what I've read, are very well reviewed tires all around. And that comes to our last one, which is again another minor, something that's more my thoughts, and that is the driver's side storage. So you do not have a lot of storage in this thing. My wife previously had a 2017 CRV, which is a smaller vehicle, but it had way more storage in it. There's just not a lot for the driver. You do have a spot to put your phone, where you buy, some of them come with wireless charging, some of them you have to buy to add on there. It's like things like $250 dealer add-on. But the problem is when you put your phone there and you have the sunroof down, the sun actually shines right on your phone, and multiple times my phone is overheated and turned off. So generally I do not put it there. So you have that. There's a nice little storage area for the passenger. There's actually two. One at the top, and then there's one on the side where your leg is at. But the driver doesn't get that. You just have your general door pockets to store things in, or you have that little front area to throw it in. The actual 2019 Outbacks actually had more storage in them. They had two little cubby areas to do that. So that's just something for me. Generally, I have to hide my phone in the glove box or in the center console, just because it gets, especially if you have the sunroof down, it gets way too hot. If it's a normal between like 10:30, 11, and 6 right now, the sun shines right on it when you have the sunroof down, so it tends to overheat the phone. So that's it. Again, most of that stuff is minor. I would still make sure you're okay with the auto start stop, or at least turning it off every time you turn the car on, and the general infotainment and how you control the air and heat. Those are the two big things. Everything else is minor, and more something that I just personally don't like. But those two are widely complained about from everyone, all the car reviewers. If you look at Motor Trend, Car and Driver, everyone's basically kind of complained about the auto start stop and the buggy infotainment system, which I think they should be able to do updates on this thing and update the software, because I think the software is jacked up too, and they could probably improve it like you do with phones with updates, or a lot of the mirrorless cameras now have updates to improve things. I think they could probably do it, but they probably won't, because again, most people don't care, but it is a little bit buggy, the infotainment. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments below. We do plan on doing a review on the Ascent and the Outback, the long-term reviews. I haven't done any reviews on the Ascent because car stuff takes a long time to do if you're shooting video of it. But we do plan on getting some video up of that, so look out for those. Again, like this video if you want to see more videos like this, and leave a comment below and I will get back to you. Have a good rest of the day, week, weekend, whatever. Be safe out there, and I'll see you guys next time.